is there a big general piece of advice that you could give to all of the teams here that would apply to all of them?
In terms of for like the projects or just career in general?
In general.
I just keep making stuff. Take time to consume things, because that's how you sort of like refill your tanks and your reserves, and you get ideas and how can I mix this and this and this. I always talk about games I'm reviewing, playing as like, oh, it's like X but with Y, right? And you just get more of those letters to mix in there the more you play, but then you also do need to be making stuff to show what you can do. And then try to be easy to work with.
That's what I was going to say. You've probably heard this a bunch of times. It's a really small industry, and it is all about teamwork and how well you work with others. And that's a key skill to work on and always try to improve on.
Probably just keep trying. Again, as I mentioned, the question about getting in. Keep trying. Internships are super valuable if you can get them, get that experience, network. Find out if there are game developers who are hanging out and getting together on Saturdays once a quarter somewhere, and how to get into those things. Working together is also pretty critical, just being able to do that. And the biggest thing is being able to receive feedback. Feedback is just information that the user didn't understand. That's all it is. And so it's never about your idea. It's it should always be in service of what the best idea is for the product to make it go forward.
So I think everyone here should continue to work on the games that they've started now. That game will show A, you can finish something, and B, if you can bring that to an interview and sound passionate and explain why you made these decisions and explain that to an interviewer and make them care, that is going to do a lot for you. There's also a group called Seattle Indies that you can join. It's the Seattle Indie Game Developers. They have feedback groups, they have get-togethers. It's just a great way to network and get to know your local community. And then a little more abstract piece of advice. I got my first game development job my second year of college, and the whole reason I got that is because I decided that I was going to start some game groups at my college. I started a mentorship program, and I brought some speakers in, and then I wrote that on my resume, and the only reason the person picked me is because I had these extra things that I decided to do just because I was bored. So just do some extra things, because that's going to make you different than all the other students that are going through the exact same process you're going through.
Being that AMES is fairly new and the competition is new, what advice could you give the instructors? I mean, obviously, we're all proud of our students and knowing the work that we did, but can you guys help us as instructors to grow? Or do we just rock it?
I mean, I think you guys are doing a lot, which is having your industry panels, having people come back, and that you're staying up with industry, especially since, for example, when I went to Snow Isle, we did not use Unity, but Unity is industry standard, and AMES adapted. So yeah, I like what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of feedback. I'm just always really impressed over here. This is my fourth year doing it, and I'm always really impressed with some of the games. I'm I don't make half these games anymore, so I'm you're doing something right.
Yeah, no notes.
No notes.
Good job.
Thanks to you. Thank you.
And do any of you have maybe perhaps an industry story you can give where the ending was, oh my god, I can't believe that worked out? Because as an instructor, when I'm operating this crazy new game design class, I just feel like I'm in that space all the time.
So three of us all work on Guild Wars 2 for a very long time. I was, yeah. And so as I mentioned earlier, I started in QA and I left design director. I was there for 11 years, I think, just short of. Did a lot. Probably the most well-received thing I made for that game was the ability to feed cats in the world, and then they move into your house. And it was like half a joke, half a, can we get this thing in working? But it worked. And it was deliberate. Like, I went with cats, because it's a thing people know. You don't have to explain to them that if you feed a stray cat, it's going to follow you home. And it's such a silly little thing, but it like really resonated with the community. We made this like whole puzzle thing out of it. And it felt like a silly joke when I made it, but I took it really seriously when I put it together. But like the surface of it was this silly joke. It's probably one of the most exhaustive design pages I've ever written up as well. Because I had to convince people what to do
That's
it.
great.
Yeah. That's mine.
Exactly, kind of answer it. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know, I think the entire job of engineering is you're confused, and then you go, oh my god, I can't believe I figured it out, and now it works. So maybe that's just, that's the whole thing.
Hi. So, obviously I'm not a kid anymore and things change over time, but when I was their age, I found it really hard, well actually from college, to go from there to like, you're working. Aside from making clubs to, you know, and things to help them to stand out, how are they gonna make that jump from, you know, education to they're in a job if they, you know, they probably don't know anybody who's maybe working there that they can get an introduction to. How are they going to make that jump and present themselves? They cannot just walk up to Bungie's door and, hey, here I am, you know, it's special to be a job. It's just, what do you think?
Yeah, I think your first job will generally be your hardest job to get. One, because it's your first time. You do not know what's going on. But also two, because your life is so consumed with school up until that point. If you have the energy, having projects that you're working on, things that you genuinely care about and can bring to those interviews is going to make a big difference. Because a lot, you know, like we both said, our favorite thing about working is the people. And if you can be one of those people that someone wants to work with during an interview because you're passionate, you can bring things you're passionate about, they're going to want to hire you more than the person who might be like a little bit better, but they didn't connect with.
So I can kind of like dive into like my recruiting process a little bit for like some of this stuff. So it's like first cover letter, have a cover letter and cater it for the company that you're applying to. Tell me a story, tell me why you want to apply to the position you're applying to. When we had hired, we have a historian, and her full-time job is to just catalog all of the story elements in like the Destiny universe, and then answer questions for the team of like, hey, did this where was this character during like the specific time frame, and does it make sense that they were in this area so that we could tell the specific story? Like that's her whole job. The opening sentence on her cover letter said, I am uniquely qualified for this job because I'm an actual historian. And I laughed, and I was like, okay, well, tell me more. And then I read her whole cover letter, and I read about how she had gone to school, she had a master's in history, she had like specialized in like Roman culture, which is a lot of like what the Cabal are built around, like aesthetically speaking and thematically speaking. So she could speak already very articulately about the cultures that inform some of the stuff that was in the game. And then we sent her a test. We're like, all right, and she had the credentials, she had a little bit of experience working in games. I had actually seen her resume for a different role, and I passed on it because it wasn't really unique enough. But in this specific case, I was like, you are uniquely qualified. Great interview, and she's been like one of the best like additions that we've created for the team so far. So like, you think about those things, make sure your formatting is really, really clear. Make sure you're calling out for the stuff that you've done. Like, this is what I did. You know, call out, programmed a procedurally generated level design system for a student-run game. And I'm like, cool, how'd you do that? Also, you need to be able to speak to those things when I ask those questions, but like, you want things on your resume too that like stand out and make me want to know more and ask questions. And then again, all these projects that you guys have been working on, like those are part of your resume. Like include those links to those videos. I absolutely click on all the YouTube links and I'm like, all right, you made a game, let me see it. Or if you like include, if you're applying for a writing role and you include like some scripts that you've written, as long as you're not on Google, because I can't access Google on our network, don't put them in Google Docs. But like if you've got them on your own personal webpage, I will go over to your personal webpage and be like, all right, let me see your writing samples. And if those are good enough, like we'll move on to the next stage, and maybe that's we send you a test. Depending on the role we're hiring for, it might go directly to an interview loop, but there's some footwork that has to happen on the applicant side as well.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
You brought up a really good point about cover letter. I mean, I don't mean to sound really old, but I didn't even know cover letters were still a thing. It's like something I dealt with in the 80s. So to hear you say that, I guess it's still relevant. So sometimes we don't know as the parents, like the advice to give our kids. What you really need, sonny, is in a resume, and you type it out on this, you know. So thanks for mentioning that.
And yeah, your cover letter should be like a couple of short paragraphs, something that just, draws me in and wants to know a little bit more. And don't send a 2-page cover letter because, for certain positions that have been going through like 600 resumes, that might be the type of thing where I'm like, well, this cover letter was easier for me to read and I got through it faster, which got me to the resume, which got me moving them forward in our recruiting tools.